Hello, I'm Synth. Welcome to Guild Wars 2, an MMORPG developed by ArenaNet and published by NCSoft, set within the expansive world of Tyria. Tyria is a wondrous locale with an abundance of divine vistas, distinguishable creatures, and unimaginable terrors. Following the events of the original Guild Wars 250 years ago, the world has succumbed to the threat of ancient elder dragons, eldritch behemoths to awaken every 10,000 years to purge the world of its magic, only to fall asleep again and gradually leak magic into Tyria in an eternal cycle. Guild Wars 2, being an MMORPG, follows general mechanics and conventions of traditional MMOs, but applies an unorthodox twist to it, suggesting the collective mindset of unity, teamwork, and loyalism to work towards a mutual goal. As an MMORPG, Guild Wars 2 offers the player reward stimuli through visual effects, individual player progression, achievements, and immersive situations, fulfilled through the social experiences of the game, which in turn create meaningful experiences and relationships with other like-minded players. These customs are supported through the player versus environment content, the add-on classification of structured player versus player, and large-scale world versus world content. Five races muster themselves against the looming perils of the Elder Dragons and their minions despite domestic and racial issues. The ferocious Char of Ascalon, the strong-willed humans of Kryta, the proud Norn of the Shiver Peaks, the intellectual Asura of the Tyrian Underground, and the curious Silvari of the Tarnished Coast. Casting aside their differences, they attempt to retaliate against the woes of Tyria. Nine professions have been available since the release of Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns, divided into three classifications. The soldier professions utilize heavy armor and include warriors, guardians, and revenants. Adventurer professions equip medium armor and consists of rangers, thieves, and engineers. Last but not least, scholar professions issue themselves with light armor, including necromancers, elementalists, and mesmers. Each profession grants the player with unique mechanics that provide them with abilities to help them through their journey. Unlike traditional MMOs, Guild Wars 2 allows the player to make decisions that affect the course of their personal story, similar in concept to single-player RPGs. The game also introduces a unique living world where large-scale events and players' decisions influence the course of Tyria's fate. For example, a mayoral election between Ellen Keel and Evan Nashblade for the City of Lion's Arch offered benefits and distinguishable story details depending on the election's victor. This type of collective mutualism or separation between players affects the degree of participatory gaming as factions develop for player-based references. These can scatter throughout the interwebs, creating discussions, fanbases, meme creation within numerous media platforms such as Reddit, Twitch, YouTube, and other Guild Wars 2 related forums.
This is my story.
But these golems are here. Let them show you what
The apparent objects that are present in the game include the player avatars, NPCs, enemy AI, and interactable entities. The avatars, NPCs, and AI share common attributes and statistics such as power, vitality, precision, velocity, and toughness, which in turn affect sub-attributes like player HP, damage output, and defense. These can be changed with boons, conditions, the exchange of damage, heals, and general leveling progression. On the contrary, interactable entities are usually static and offer flavor text for immersion, but does not necessarily affect the environment. As players progress through the game, they gain hero points that can be used to level up specific skill trees and specializations. Skill trees unlock different active abilities that a player avatar can use to enhance their strategies and powers. A player will only be capable of equipping one healing skill, 3 utility skills, and 1 elite skill simultaneously. Specializations amplify the player with passive abilities that intensify certain skills, themes, and playstyles. These are built into specialization trees, which magnifies the specific characteristics, and the player can only equip 3 at a time. For example, On an Elementalist, a player can prioritize the Fire specialization tree for raw damage output, or the Water specialization tree for individual or group healing. With Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns' release, elite specializations have been incorporated into the mix. This type of specialization tree, in particular, changes or augments the unique profession mechanics, adding new skills, specialization traits, and additional flavor. The profession icon and name changes as well. For instance, an Elementalist can spec into the Tempest Elite tree, adding unique overloads to Elementalists. Originally, an Elementalist can only switch between different attunements ranging from fire to earth. As Tempests, they can discharge special skills, called overloads, based on their attunement and in turn sacrificing a shorter cooldown. Players can only equip one elite specialization at a time, and as of right now, only one elite specialization exists per profession. What's an MMORPG without an exquisite world to explore? Take the time to look around, finding bits of lore, viewing gorgeous spectacles, and talking to others. Who knows, you may discover an interesting side expedition as a result. Players will come across landmarks littered throughout Tyria, such as waypoints that allow fast travel for players, vistas that showcase a portion of the region, hero challenges, which grant the player with more hero points, and points of interest, which describe specifically named landmarks. They respectively contribute to map completion and reward you with EXP and different loot ranging from weapons and armor to crafting materials and junk. The primary attributes of a player are normalized between all professions, primarily based on power, precision, ferocity, vitality, and toughness. This means that all classes share the same damage stat, and there are no distinctions between weapon damage and magic damage. For example, this staff has the following stats and can be used by an Elementalist. I can use a plethora of staff skills at my disposal that will be visually and externally seen as magic to attack enemies and to support other players. Now when I take that same staff with the same stats and transfer it to a thief, I can be just as successful with it, despite being a melee and weapon-based class. The two professions share the same stats, but utilize it according to their own individual mechanics. All professions share a dodge mechanic as well, which completely nullifies enemy attacks. Using all of these active combat mechanics, one can strive to improve themselves. Another neat mechanic are combo fields and finishers. Ever wanted to shoot an arrow through fire and have it become a burning arrow? Can do. You can utilize different synthesized combo fields and combo finishers to augment playstyles and abilities. Make sure to always be on your toes when fighting enemies. Guild Wars 2 predominantly endeavors for a living, breathing world, and dynamic events support that completely. A player can walk past the farm, and suddenly bandits appear to start burning bayhales, or a dragon descends from the sky to wreak havoc. These add flavor to the game world, and avoids aspect of static questing. Some maps contain large-scale meta events, but I'll get to that later. With the release of Heart of Thorns, the concept of masteries were introduced to replace level cap increases. Instead of leveling up past the current max level of 80 to raise attributes like most MMORPGs, players focus on different mastery lines that improve their playstyle. These can range from gliding to mushroom utility to general convenience like party-wide city speed boosts. This system changes the idea of a level grind to be more akin to action-adventure platformers like Metroid, Zelda, and Castlevania. Making fair use of these masteries will add benefits to the player and can aid in countless encounters. Meta events are map-wide phenomena and are one of the epitomes of Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns. They create a sense of urgency for hundreds of players to work together, to experience cooperative relationships, and to be rewarded for doing so. Some maps have time-based meta events and often provide a multitude of dynamic event chains. In the day, players may be asked to recoup lost soldiers, fortify defenses, or help local tribes. In contrast, at night, players may be asked to defend against sieges or to help bring supply to rally points. The events accumulate as the meta progresses, so players must continue to be vigilant. Small cumulative mistakes can definitely change a victory to a failure.
Need a rock. Turn up the heat.
Meta events culminate into one climactic conclusion for the players to showcase their integrity against the enemy. These are usually the most significant events, serving as a final stretch against an opposing force. Players will have to collaborate with everyone else, solving problems and precisely timing tactics to triumph over the enemy. This type of supportive play is evident within the game mechanics as well, since the number of players and communal knowledge of the enemy contribute greatly toward the advancement. Boon distribution is an important game factor, where boons are not individualized, but rather spread out in an area of effect, prioritizing party members than squad members. If a player's health drops to 0, they will enter down states, where they can be revived by other players, or they can rally by defeating an enemy, so ensure utmost awareness. Kill steals also don't exist in Guild Wars 2. If multiple have tagged an enemy through attacks, they will all obtain EXP and loot. Cooperative interaction is further challenged through raids, where a squad of 10 players face off against advanced and increasingly difficult bosses. Keep an eye out for each other.
Don't let the creature get away.
The grandeur of Tyria permeates through time and space. The exploration of an enormous and unique world motivates and inspires minds to compromise and appreciate its divinity. Amusement comes in many forms, including but not limited to the thrill of urgency, the beauty of extraordinary viewpoints, the discovery and immersion found through exploration, the social interaction and problem-solving between countless players, the thirst for progression-based power, and the contribution of creating a world with fellow companions. Many perceive MMOs to hold lonely natures, to serve as an escape from real-world responsibilities. That could be potentially true, but regardless of those beliefs, the amount of interpersonal experiences create memories that are embedded within ourselves. Memories that allow us to aspire for a blissful future. We'll just have to go one leap at a time.